Ross Taylor couldn't see at night or when the clouds were in. Eventually, he had to see an eye specialist who would fix his eyesight. In the 2 years before the change, he still averaged more than 50 in international cricket. The top level of batting talent can basically see in the dark. That is who we are talking about in our new book, The Art of Batting. Head over and order your copy today. This video is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon. If you want to be part of the community that makes content like this, head over now.
Hello and welcome everyone. I am Shayan and I have Estelle here with me. So we're going to talk about today's Bangladesh versus Pakistan one-day match in the Women's ODI World Cup. And Bangladesh actually won the match by 7 wickets with a lot of overs to spare, like almost 18 overs to spare. So that was a clinical performance from them, isn't it? And I think it really started in the first over, right? So Estelle, you were at the game. What was your experience like?
Yeah, I mean, clinical is the word you could use for this kind of performance from Bangladesh.
Yeah.
They came in as underdogs, you would say, the lowest ranked side in the competition, but they performed outstandingly well in this game. And as you rightly mentioned, it was that first over, right?
Yeah.
So Marufa has been a revelation, I think, in the women's game over the last couple of years since making her debut in 2023. And she just showcased some incredible skills today as well. I did see her at the warm-up game between South Africa and Bangladesh. Unfortunately, that game lasted only 9 overs. But she managed to bowl Laura Woolward and I think it was Marizan Kapp or Anna Riderkson in a very similar way that she started today. So it was kind of it's turning out to be something that you're used to seeing from her, but just set the tone for Bangladesh. And at the end of the day, that looks like a very, very comfortable win for them, 3 wickets down and plenty of overs to spare.
Yeah. Definitely. And I think when she started bowling to the left-hander, it was apparent how much the ball was moving, right? Like it was almost very close to the wide line at times. And I think if we still have to nitpick and make any criticism of her bowling at all, I think it was her line control at times. It was either too wide, like either down leg or like outside the off at times. But apart from that, she bowled really well. And I think those two inswingers that both of them got bold dismissals, right? Like that was just the perfect start for them, I think. But even after that, I felt Pakistan actually didn't bat too badly in the power play. Like if we see their returns in the first 10 overs, they ended up with 43 for 2, right? And that wasn't too bad, I would have to say that.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. I mean, to be honest, I think there was much more runs in this wicket than 43 in the first 10 overs. But given the fact that they were put under pressure, it was still kind of a score that you can build on, right? Not a score where you end up 120 all out. I think we can be very, very critical about Pakistan's batting and Pakistan's approach. But when you look at the big picture, the first 10 overs weren't as bad as you would think, given that they ended up with just 120.
Exactly. And especially the fact that they lost the 2 wickets in the first over, right? So I think from there they did a decent enough rebuilding job, that partnership between Muniba Ali, and they actually promoted Ramin Shamim up the order, I think. And they were doing pretty well with the sweep shot, I feel, in particular. So I think when they played the sweep shot in the power play, they were 18 of 10. So that was actually I think they were a bit too reliant on it at times even. Like you could see that it was obviously their attacking option with respect to score. Like that is how they would want to score their boundaries against spin bowling. And I think against seam, they didn't really have any massive attacking boundary options in the first 10 overs. And eventually, but it really all fell apart for them, I think, in that first middle overs really, right? That 11 to 25 period where although they lost, I think just 3 wickets, like compared to how they just collapsed after that, right? But those 3 wickets, I think the bigger concern for me then was they were not rotating strike well at all. And I think this is what Jared and I were talking about, the same thing as well, right? It's just the fact that it was either block or they were scoring boundaries. So I think that was the key difference for me, because if we actually see their power play compared to Bangladesh, even Bangladesh scored 20 odd runs in the first 10 overs, right? They also didn't have a great power play, and actually Diana Begg bowled a brilliant spell. Like nobody was able to score any runs off her. I think she gave 2 runs in 5 overs. So if in that respect, I think if we see where Pakistan really lost the game, I think it was the middle overs for me.
Yeah, it has to be, right? And it's, again, as I said before, it's the approach that you have to question.
Yeah.
When you talk about the sweeps, I wonder if there has been a bit too much looked into what the R. Premadasa has, what kind of pitches it has produced in the
Yeah,
recent past in men's cricket. And
correct.
I think there's a key distinction there in that in the men's game, we have seen a lot of low scoring in the sense very 90s type cricket, right? 230,
Exactly.
240 are winning totals, the ball is spinning square, all of that. But if you look at the women's games, not just at R. Premadasa, but played across Sri Lanka, you've had high scoring games. Like the most recent women's internationals were in May of this year, all played here. Sri Lanka had a tri series against South Africa and India. And I think
Exactly.
you had like more than half of the games produced 280 runs for at least one of the sides. So it has been a high scoring venue for the women. So I
Yeah,
wonder if the sweep shots were brought out in the anticipation that this is going to be a slow and low type of pitch where
yeah,
Bangladesh's spinners are going to really take control and it's going to be difficult to score on. But that's not the case, right? Like I mean, and that adaptation should have happened in
yeah,
the middle overs in that period that you spoke about, that 11 to 25. They were
yeah,
just too um, there was no intent to score, right? Like, I mean,
yeah,
one person, I think, like, it's you have to be critical about is Alia Riaz, who is known
yeah.
to be a clean striker of the ball. She just didn't look like she was looking for options to work the ball and rotate the strike, right? She ends with
Yeah.
13 of 43
42,
deliveries.
43.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and that completely kind of, you know, not to put all the blame on her, but it kind of slows down Pakistan to
Yeah.
an extent that Bangladesh are well on top of them, right? And
Yeah.
if you just look at how they were batting, like all the fielders on the leg side were on the boundary, but there was no attempt to kind of move the ball onto the leg side apart from those sweep shots and try to rotate the strike, at least if boundaries weren't coming their way. So, like, I think there's a lot to think about for Pakistan in terms of strategy and how they go about things because they're playing all their games in Colombo. So if they're coming
Exactly.
into this thinking slow and low, today clearly was not the case.
Exactly. I think someone made this point on Twitter as well that I think was it Russell Arnold who predicted that it will actually end up being like this 320 sort of a wicket, and people were later laughing at it that saying, okay, we didn't really see a lot of runs, right? But maybe if it was like if we were talking about stronger teams, it could have been a possibility, right? Because it was
Yeah.
from watching, it didn't feel like it was a rank turner to me. It was definitely possible to get runs on the surface as you compared with men's cricket where we've definitely seen more wickets that turn a lot more. So I think we have Jared here as well. Has he joined? Is he here yet?
Yeah, I can see him in the
I can see
screen.
him, but he's not on the live. That's very weird. Oh, he's not there now. Anyways,
Okay, he's gone.
so we were talking about that period, right? So
Yeah.
I think when you talk about the attacking intent, I think they were still able to get some boundaries, right? So I think there was one, two, three, four, five. Sorry, yeah, one. So I think it was actually Sidra Nawaz who got a bunch of boundaries, like when she came into bat, right? And Alia Riaz got one boundary in the 15th over.
Yeah.
Then there's like
And
one, two, three,
Fatima
four.
Sana.
Yeah, so, yeah. I think her approach was pretty decent. Oh, yeah. So I was just looking at how many boundaries they actually hit in that 11 to 25 period. I think that wasn't as bad to me as the strike rotation. Really, this was one, two, three, four, 5, 6, 7. Yeah,
Yeah, they really
they were
struggled
they were
to
still
kind
seven
of
fours
move the
from 11 to
scoreboard, weren't
25.
they?
So they
Yeah.
basically didn't rotate strike at all because they made like
Yeah.
45 runs in that 11 to 25 period. What about the rest of the balls? Like 7 fours is still okay. I can live with that in the middle overs for sure. So Jared, I
No,
think also,
it's what you
yeah,
guys discussed, right? Like the either go for the boundaries or block.
yeah,
It's
exactly,
terrible. It's terrible watching them. Uh, the inability to understand how to play the game. And today they lost early wickets, but we looked at the data the other day, right? And their numbers suggest that they bat okay in the power play, right? And that's because the
yeah,
field's up and it's normal batting, right? That's
yeah,
how we're all brought up. It's just a normal way to bat. And the minute you get them into a situation where they have to do anything else, there's no batting left, right? It's
yeah,
absolutely terrible. And this is a good attack, and I think Shine, you said this at one stage. The Bangladesh were bowling well, so I think it's a
yeah,
decent, slightly subpar attack, but a decent subpar attack. Who were bowling well? But they were allowed to bowl well because Pakistan was only ever trying to hit them for 4 or just sit there and block the whole time. It was so frustrating to watch it. And I'm about to do a short video. I just thought I'd drop in because I was in the office and I knew you guys were on. Although I still buggered up actually coming in the first time. But like, is there something going on in Pakistan cricket, right? This is one for Bayram. Have people forgotten the ability to strike rotate? Because if you go back a few generations, Estelle will know this. Sean, you're a baby, so you won't know. But a few generations back, you had, Inzi and Yusuf, Yunus, Misbah. All these guys were very good at strike rotating. If we were going to have an argument with them, it's that they never scored any runs, right? Shoaib Malik, one of the best strike rotators in T20 cricket, right? Baba, Rizwan, right? The women's team has always been a bit slog or get out, so maybe that hasn't changed. But the men's team is now exactly the same. Like, is there something going on with Pakistan cricket where everyone's being told to hit boundaries and they have no idea how to just find a gap and get a single? It's so frustrating to watch.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it wouldn't be that much of a problem if they were actually finding the boundaries. That's the issue, right? Like, that's not happening either.
I still think if you do
everything's
that,
a block.
Yeah, I just think if you do that, because Pakistan men's team did find the boundary a bit, right? I think though what happens is you allow really good bowlers to set you up, right? And also, it means that if you're a bowler, I don't mind if, as a leg spinner, if someone blocks me for 3 balls and hits me for a boundary, I'm like, okay, so I'm going to get out of this over okay. Whereas if someone's hit me for a couple of 2s and then hits a 4, I'm like, oh, now I'm in a hole. What do I do? And it's the lack of pressure, right? If someone's trying to hit me for a 4 every ball, again, I'm on alert now, right? I'm probably going to bowl more defensive. Is that what we saw with Pakistan? Like, it looked like they were like defending. It looked like they were in a test match.
I think actually Nigar Sultana made that comment, right? I think it was in Bengali behind the stump. She kept saying, "Is this the test match?"
Oh my God.
Because they kept blocking.
Have you pulled your microphone out, Estelle?
Can you guys not hear me?
She's gone a bit weird. The only other thing I wanted to talk about while we had a chance is the innings today that we saw from, I now forgot her name. She went out at the end, didn't she? No, Rubya. Yeah. So is that her first game?
Yeah, I believe she was on debut. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's played what? I'm just having a look now. She's played 6 T20s where she's made 58 runs. Oh my God, she made 54 today, right?
Yeah.
Oh, if she'd made 4 more runs, she would have doubled her international thing. I just thought she looked really good. She's quite compact.
Yeah.
Quite a strong looking player. Reminds me of that sort of like Gautam Gambhir, Justin Langer type of body, if you know what I mean, where you just like, there's not a lot of moving parts to her batting. So technically she should always be in the right positions, but because she's strong, she can kind of force the ball away at times as well. She looked quite clever. I thought she was a revelation because, coming in, I think I was quite clear in the preview video, they can't bat, right? And she's someone we haven't seen before. So obviously her data's not in our system. I looked at that and I was like, they can bat. That's what you want with a player like her.
Exactly. I think it was really the captain when Nigar Sultana, when she hit those boundaries in that middle period, I think around the 15th or 16th over. And then she continued the rest of it, right?
Was that the 3 boundaries in a row?
Exactly. I think must have been the 15th or the 16th over.
Yeah, one of those was buys though, wasn't it? Which just shows that,
she stepped out and it was a buy. Yeah.
Yeah, it could have been just stumping. Like that whole game could have flipped in that over, really. Like it was a very, very sort of dramatic turn from that point onwards. Anyway, I did watch the game, but you guys know a lot more than me. But I was in the office and I was like, I have a rant. I need to go on that rant. And then I'm going to go do a short video of that rant as well. But well played to Bangladesh. I was really impressed with them today. Their bowling is pretty much where I thought it would be, but their batting was much better. So you guys can take it over from here. Sorry,
Yeah, I think that was a pretty good summary of what really the 2 big stories of today's game were, right? Like Pakistan's inability to rotate the strike and then how well we saw a debutant play, right? Like it really showed us the difference because when she was looking to get the boundaries, she was able to do that at will, I felt. And it was really that 15 to 21 over period, I think, in the second innings where they just killed the game because up to that point, it was going pretty close. It didn't feel like it was going to be a completely easy run chase from that point.
Yeah, so this is the thing, right? Like if you look at Pakistan's approach and you compare it to Bangladesh's, I think Bangladesh as well was like, we were talking about it in the press box as well. Like, you would think in a game like this, you're chasing 120 something,
Yeah,
that you would think about like net run rate, right?
exactly.
Like any other team would have been thinking, we need to score these runs quickly. But I think for
Yeah.
Bangladesh, coming into this tournament as the lowest ranked side, getting one win out of it is a good is you know a good thing for them. So they were
Yeah,
not
definitely.
concerned about net run rate. They were playing in their approach was similar to Pakistan's, but they didn't
Yeah.
lose the wickets. And once they got settled in, they started scoring quicker, which is not what we saw from Pakistan, right? Like if you look at
Yeah.
Haider, like at the top of the order, she started very slowly. Then in the middle of her innings, she kind of picked up with a few boundaries, slowed down at
Yeah.
the end when Shobana Mostri came in and finished the game
Yeah.
quickly. But like
Yeah, she hit a lot of boundaries as well. Like I think
yeah, she
when
hit
she was
six
on 20,
boundaries in,
all
like,
5 of those was boundaries, right?
Yeah, so
and even the
24,
last one,
I
right?
think 6
Yeah,
boundaries.
it
Yeah.
must have been every ball would have been a boundary now.
Yeah, every
Yeah,
scoring shot was a
every
boundary. So
exactly.
yeah, so
All on the
like,
offside, by the way, in that point to cover
although the
region. It's a very small region
yeah.
when I see it on the wagon wheel. Very
Yeah, and it's
stuff.
interesting that there was
Yeah.
no change in field or anything, right? Despite that.
But I think if you put a fielder there, then there might be an opening somewhere else as well. No, so I think it's just about having that one area where you can score consistently. This is what Pakistan I felt lacked because they were although they swept pretty well, even I think in the middle overs they were not sweeping too badly. But it felt like their only real way to attack, as I said early on, right?
Yeah, and
And-
also the thing is, like, if you look at Pakistan, I know we've already mentioned like the intent and stuff, but it was not like they were trying things and finding the field, right? They
Yeah,
were
I think
just
to quite
blocking.
an extent. It felt like block, and then the odd boundary was coming in. And even if you see how Alia Riaz ended up getting out, right? Once you've taken up that many deliveries, if that is the approach that you're going with, you might as well go for the long haul, right? Like it was a bit of a random shot, I felt at that point. And,
And
hadn't they
also,
already
give a
lost 5 wickets by then when she got out?
And also, Aleria's, I think they were 3 down, right? Because she batted at 5 today. They were 3
Yeah,
or
I'm
4
just trying
down,
to see.
I think, when she was batting.
So they lost a wicket at the 27.3
Sorry,
mark.
5. You're right. 5. There were 5 for 67 when Sana came in to bat with
Correct.
her. Yeah, so just like, I mean, intent-wise, it was very poor, and I think when you, like, again, to talk about the sweep shots, they misread or they expected something that probably didn't come from this surface.
Yeah, I think there might have been an element of anticipating from before that, okay, because you said that this is the sort of wicket that might spin, so we might as well go for sweep shots, and that's our like get out of jail shot, right? But then you also have to be able to find gaps and just take those singles regularly, because if you don't take the singles, it just, as Jared explained to us so well, that it becomes very easy for the bowler, because then they are not being challenged back. Because if you can keep scoring like just 1-4, so they scored what, 7 fours in those 15 overs, right? But they did nothing apart from that, really. I think that is what like really shifted the momentum back in Bangladesh. That is what I don't really think the momentum was ever really in Pakistan's favor per se, but you could have said that maybe if they posted 200, it could have been an interesting game, right? But it never really came to that situation.
Yeah, and just when you were talking about Alia Riaz, that's what kind of my mind went to, is that like, okay, you've taken up 30 something deliveries, you might as well go for the long haul, because you know that Bangladesh is another side that doesn't bat well, right? It's not a side that bats well. So you put up a total of 200, 220. Even if this is a good batting track, you're going to put them under pressure. And they did there were moments where Bangladesh was under pressure, right? It's just that the wickets didn't come for Pakistan. So if they had 70 runs more, it would have been a much more interesting game. Because given that they were chasing 130, wait, what were they chasing? 130, right?
130. Yeah, 130, exactly.
130, they could afford to bat at like 4 runs and over, 5 runs and over. Even 3 runs and over for majority of their innings. Like if you look at their batting lineup, it's only the two who were unbeaten who are scoring reasonably quickly. Even Rubya Haider was striking at 70. The others are
Yeah.
striking. I mean, Shorna Akter is 33.3 and Nigar Sultana is 52.27. So they were striking slowly because they know they don't have to
Yeah.
really do anything, right? Because the
Exactly.
total
Yeah.
is very low.
Yeah, I think because Nigar Sultana was, I think, 0 of 10, and then she got those
Yes.
boundaries in that 15th over. I think, in a way, her innings was really decisive. I felt, even though on the scorecard it will not reflect like that, but I think in shifting the momentum completely back in Bangladesh's favor in the second innings, that was like a really vital
Yeah.
period. I thought, like a very little bit vital period. And if we actually compare their dot ball percentages, so Pakistan played 71% dots. But Bangladesh played 73% dots. It's not even like
Exactly.
both teams were playing a lot of dot balls, right? The difference probably was that Bangladesh just got more boundaries and they just rotated strike a lot better, I felt, even
And
though
they've got
it didn't really
they've
come to
got more
that
pressure,
because they knew
right?
the target.
Yeah, because they know they're chasing only 130. They didn't have that kind of pressure. They knew that as long as they stuck around, they didn't lose wickets, they'd
Yeah.
get to that target. So it was just that simple for them. They knew if they didn't lose wickets, they'd get to the
Yeah.
target. Pakistan, on the other hand,
And
it felt like they wanted to stick around, but also then attack, and the attack didn't really
yeah.
go well. So they ended up with no runs and all dismissed, right?
For sure, for sure. And I think we should talk a bit about their spinners as well, especially Shorna Akter and Nahida Akter. They also, like, they took 5 wickets between them, really. And
Yeah.
if we actually go and see how they got their wickets, so I think with Shorna, it was more when I'm seeing the pitch maps. Shorna got her wickets from a good length, and one was from short of a good length, and Nahida got both from full length. So I think, at times they were bowling those googlies as well, and so they have 3 leg spinners. So I that was something that I really like, that okay, this is leg spin representation properly when we are seeing 3 leg spinners in a single team. But I think it's also about the variety, right? Like they have an off spinner opening the bowling with a right arm seamer who can get the ball back into the right hander and away from the left hander. And apart from that, we obviously have a left arm finger spinner as well. So Bangladesh are not a strong team, that is for sure, but they're definitely a bowling team even within this. And from the numbers that Jared did, this was, I think, one of the ways that they were going to win, and they ended up doing that successfully in their very first game. And
Yeah.
why I think this is disappointing is because Pakistan did not bat poorly against South Africa, right? In the last series that they played at home. That wasn't such a bad series for them, was it? They were getting, I think, scores around 270, 280. They almost chased down. I think they ended up losing the chase because it was a DLS game, if I remember right. So if we really look at that from that perspective, I'm not sure why there was suddenly such a big drop off. Do you think you have any
Yeah, I
idea
think
about that?
one of the big issues is Sidramin is kind of that glue that stuck that batting
Yeah.
lineup together, right? In ODI
Yeah.
cricket in particular, I think she's been. I mean, you can be critical about her approach in T20s, but in one day cricket,
Yeah.
she's kind of been the person who's kept things together, and
100%.
she got one of those Marufa Akter deliveries that she couldn't do much about. So it's interesting actually that when you look at lower ranked teams, it's always the
Yeah.
case now, right? In limited overs cricket where there is very little batting, the
Yeah,
strength is
even
always
I'm
the bowling.
somehow seeing this thing that maybe even in associate cricket, obviously it's like I'm talking about men's cricket here, but I've also seen this that somehow they're able to challenge the higher ranked teams when they're bowling, but
Yeah.
as soon as it comes to their batting, somehow that same level of impact is not there. And I think it probably comes down to stuff like, they're probably not as effective when it comes to rotating the strike in particular, because I think that's what really separates them. And I mean, if you're talking about stronger teams, they have more options to score boundaries. I think sometimes with these batters, what happens is that they don't have multiple ways to score boundaries, and so it is easier to game plan for them.
Yeah, you're right. I think that's one of the big issues if you look across, as you said, like the weaker teams and compare them, is that you wouldn't have like Australia going into a game here thinking we are just going to sweep, 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 right? They're going to
Yeah.
have other options, and their batters are
100%.
going to be able to execute those options,
Yeah.
and that's kind of the difference. Again, like I said, I just feel like they went in with this mindset that it's going to spin, and so we
Yeah.
need to bring out the sweep, or Bangladesh is playing this number of spinners. So it was almost
Exactly.
like you hadn't taken into account that, okay, you have to first survive that new ball spell for Marufa, right?
Yeah.
Because she's been consistently good. I don't know why if at all, that you would overlook her, because she's been consistently good for them since making her debut, and she's moving the ball like extravagantly. Would be very interested to see her bowling under lights. Um, I'm sure we'll see it at some point in this competition. So like it felt like they came in with this, we're gonna sweep. This is what we're gonna do, and
Yeah.
no one could actually change the game plan from that point.
Yeah, I think Ronak actually has an interesting comment that I'll bring up. He says that it all comes down to having a stronger first class and domestic structure when it comes to batting in longer formats of the game. Definitely agree with this. I think this is a very valid point because see, when you're doing this from the grassroots level, all these batters have various shots to be able to rotate strike. And if you're not, I know it sounds like a broken record at this point when we talk about both the men's and the women's Pakistan cricket team, but it might just be a bit of a systemic issue. It might be something for their journalists to look into in depth and figure out why it is happening. But I think you don't even need to do it like you don't even need to become like an elite strike rotator or an elite boundary hitter, right? You need to do the basics right so that at least you're able to put yourself in positions to challenge other teams, I think. And definitely Pakistan would be very disappointed with the start that they've had because I don't think they've been such a poor batting team as they showed today. At least
Yeah.
this is from the numbers that I was looking up, and I think that they're a bit of a top 3 dominant side, as you said, and they already lost 2 of their batters right up top, right, like in the very first over. And Sidra Amin, as you said, I think when I was looking at the numbers, she's a bit of a slow starter, but she's probably their most reliable batter. I think in the first 25 overs, she likes to take her time, and then after that, she has that ability to build her innings and play those long knocks, right?
Yeah, exactly. She is a slow starter, and that's what I think people criticize about her T20 batting.
Yeah.
But when you come into ODI cricket, and especially in a side that is lacking in batting power, right, or consistent batting performances, you want that kind of batter to kind of bat through the innings. And as you rightly said, like they are top heavy, and when you lose 2 wickets in the first over, then that immediately puts you on the back foot. But as we discussed early in the innings, early in the show, they were 40 something in 10 overs. So 200 was not a score that was beyond them. And if they had put up 200, I think this would have been a much bigger challenge for
For
Bangladesh.
sure. Yeah, and I think one more thing that I felt was different between Bangladesh and Pakistan was that Bangladesh also had various other scoring opportunities. Like if you see, for instance, if you see Rubya Haider's wagon wheel, so she got 8 boundaries, right? So there's 1 boundary in the fine leg region, 1 in the third man, 2 in that point covers region roughly, like behind square roughly. Then there's mid on, mid off also, so she can score in the V, she can score behind square with the cut shot. Then there are a couple of boundaries towards the mid on mid wicket region as well, right? So it's just the fact that if you can score towards all these different parts of the ground, and I think even for her, I think she didn't take a lot of singles, for example. So she took 18 singles and 2 double triples in 77 balls. So I think this was, and probably because she was a debutant, so it's fair. But that the rate at which she was scoring boundaries was definitely very impactful. And I think she also hit a couple of, like she hit a slog sweep. That was, I think, a pretty important shot at that point when they had started to really dominate, right?
Yeah, she had her options, as you said, like, and that's what Pakistan were lacking. Again, like, I don't see anything beyond the fact that they came in with this mindset that it's going to spin and we're going to use the sweep, and they didn't really think of anything beyond that. I wonder, I mean, as you mentioned, they didn't bat as badly against South Africa, right? And South Africa's bowling is you would say much higher standard than what we've seen from Bangladesh, particularly on like flatter tracks, right? So it felt like they just didn't think that they would need anything beyond that, right?
Yeah, I think completely agree with you on that. So, I think on that note, do you think there's anything else that you found really interesting from this game? I think, in a way, like from a neutral's perspective, I would have to say that it was a bit of a dull game because we saw a lot of blocking, and not really a lot of smart cricket in that sense. I'm not even saying that I want to see all 6s and 4s, especially because it's ODI cricket. I think we respect that side of things as well, where you can build an innings properly, and especially and I think this is what we saw with Australia and India on the first day, right? Like when they were down and out, when they had lost like 5-6 wickets and they didn't have a lot of runs on the board, they had players lower down the order who could ensure that these teams can come back. Now, of course, we're talking about Australia, man. Like they have Ash Gardner, who's one of the best all-rounders ever in the women's game, perhaps, right? And even India, I think they have lots of talent, lots of self-belief in them, especially when you heard what Amanjot Kaur was saying in the press conference. Like she knew that she has that, and Deepti, of course, very experienced player. So I think, of course, it's not fair to criticize, the lower ranked teams for this, because they don't have as many resources. They don't probably even, they have to face a lot harder challenges as well, I feel, like getting up from the grassroots. And especially because I think both Pakistan and Bangladesh, I feel I like they're both more conservative societies as well, so it might be a harder deal to break through the system and really be able to establish yourself. But I think Pakistan can definitely take their lessons from this. I don't think that they completely lack talent, that they cannot win a game at all in this World Cup, although this would have been their best chance. But I think Bangladesh actually defeated them the last time as well, right? Like even in 2022 it was Bangladesh who got their first World Cup win against Pakistan, and again this year they've managed to do that.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the big highlight, right? Like, I mean, watching the game, you would think they are, these are two evenly matched teams and whoever plays better can win. But the fact is that Bangladesh have one win in World Cup history, right? So to come into this tournament and win their first game, I think will give them a lot of confidence, because they've beaten Sri Lanka in the warm-up game they played as well. They had South Africa under a lot of pressure in the first warm-up they played. So it'll give them a lot of confidence going into the rest of the tournament, because even though like a semi-final spot might seem a bit too far-fetched, 2 to 3 wins in the tournament would be a massive win for them, because they're coming in as the lowest ranked team. From Pakistan's point of view, they would have thought this is their best opportunity to get a win under their belts. And now they would be they would have, I think, Sri Lanka probably the next side that they would target. But apart from that, it's going to be tough going for them, right? Particularly if they play like this. The only thing I can think of is that they have an advantage in the fact that they're going to play every match in these conditions. And I don't see the pitches changing much through the tournament.
I think that's actually a very valid point, because because of the fact that they have to play every single game of this tournament here, they might just end up getting used to the conditions, So I think even now that you say that Bangladesh actually defeated Sri Lanka in the warm-up game, that's a bit of an interesting point. I wasn't aware of that. I think I'll go back and look at the scorecard, look at possibly the highlights and see what was going on there. But if Bangladesh can manage to defeat like another couple of teams, they could be party spoilers. And maybe, because even I think Sri Lanka, like they had India under pressure for a long time, right? Like for half of the first innings, it did really feel like, okay, they can end up defeating India, and it's not that they can't do it. Like they've done it before. I think in the T20 format they've done it. They actually defeated them in the Asia Cup last year. That was a big moment for Sri Lankan women's cricket, I feel. But I mean, apart from that, when like India made the comeback, and when Chamari Athapattu was batting, she was batting really well. But I think once she got out, I think Sri Lanka didn't really look like a team that could challenge India. But I think it's still early days in the tournament, so lots of teams can definitely improve and look at simple stuff that they can start doing better. Because like we are going to see a lot more competitive games in this tournament at this point, I think. And so I think it was pretty, it was not a very entertaining day of cricket, but I think it was lot of definitely stuff to learn from this game. That okay, and I think the highlight obviously has to be Marufa Akter's opening spell, and even like a shout out to Diana Begg's spell. I felt she was bowling really well. Like nobody was able to score off her at all, and they kept playing and missing. I think Bangladesh, that was one key difference. Like Pakistan was still able to get some runs from boundaries and stuff in the power play, right, when they were batting, mainly because I think because of the spinners, they had the ability to do that in the power play. But with Bangladesh, I felt like they were just playing and missing early on. And definitely it didn't seem like it was going to be like when we were talking about, okay, we have to do this live, we have to plan everything, right? I was thinking, okay, maybe they'll end up doing it in 40 overs. So, but they actually ended up finishing it far before that, right? Like we were discussing 40.
Thanks
we were
to
like, okay,
Sobana Mostri. I think everyone
she definitely helped
just
speed
happy
it
with
up.
her, because she sped things up significantly.
She definitely sped things up, and I think even when we talk about that partnership between the captain Nigar Sultana and the debutant Rubya Haider, I think that was also like that 15 to 21 overs period that I keep talking about. Those 7 overs, I felt they completely shifted the momentum back in their favor and they won it comfortably. So it's a pretty interesting thing. Lots of stuff to learn, and I think we'll see you guys tomorrow again. Tomorrow should also be an exciting match, and so I think. SL, any closing thoughts?
No, I think it's going to be an exciting tournament if things go as planned. 8 teams, right? So very difficult to choose from. I think the bottom probably the bottom 5 to 6 teams, it's tough
Yeah.
to pick out winners. If Bangladesh can put in performances like this with the ball, they're going to put a lot of teams under pressure, I feel.
Exactly.
Because, it could be that they don't make it to the semis, but they could ruin the chances of some
Yeah.
other teams.
For sure, I think. And so I think we have England and South Africa playing at Guwahati. So I think the next 3 games we have, one is at Guwahati and then both the weekend games are at Colombo. So I think we'll see you guys and we'll try to cover like most of the games that we possibly can. I think Sri Lanka games, I believe Estelle is not going to be able to do those because she has other commitments, but we'll try our best to get as many games to you as possible. And I think it's a very interesting tournament and definitely lots of things for us to learn. So okay, bye bye guys, goodbye.
This video is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon. If you want to be part of the community that makes content like this, head over now. Ben Duckett does not leave the ball. He goes after everything. That is his signature style. Well, actually, no. Perhaps now he is best known for Duckett's Buckets, his new hat range. I don't know if Herbert Sutcliffe sold his own hats, but I would definitely have bought them if he did. But Ben Duckett does, so you don't need to be left alone without one. Chase down your own Duckett's Buckets today.